Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
I'm distracted by a 3D Nintendo DS Super Smash Brothers.
Have you played with one of those before, Leo?
I've played with the regular DSs, the 3DSs. This is a 3D 3DS, which sounds like I'm stuttering. But Bryan Burnett, are you a 3DS fan?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I mean, I've kind of held off buying one until now, but my brothers have had them for a while.
Yeah. Let's take us on a tour of the new 3D 3DS, Bryan. What? Tell me about it.
Okay, so the biggest difference with the new 3DS is that they added what they call super stable 3D. And so the 3D used to be if you moved it side to side at all, you would kind of lose that 3D effect,
Right.
which kind of ruins the whole thing.
They call that lenticular 3D, where it's just based on your positioning near the screen.
Right.
Yeah.
So it kind of...
This is still doing that a little bit. Did you find this very realistic? It's super stable?
So what it tries to do is the camera tries to track your face. So if you kind of have to hold it a little bit.
To be closer to it.
Yeah, really get in there. Yeah.
It's more 3D-ish now.
It's definitely more. Whoa!
Yeah, and that's the nice thing is it has the slider, so you can kind of adapt how much 3D you want to use.
They've always done that. So
yeah, that's nothing new. No, the new thing is the face tracking. So it'll kind of follow your face and try to optimize the screen for where you're looking at it.
In your experience, better?
Yes. Good. Compared to side by side with the older DS, it's a lot better. So if you're going to be using this on the bus or in a train or something that you're going to be moving a little bit, it makes a big difference.
You really? Did you try it in a bus or train? Because my experience with using these things in a bus or train is it's a great way to get really sick.
Well, for me, it depends.
Bother you?
It doesn't bother me, but for every person, it's going to be a little bit different. But I usually keep the slider about halfway. Okay. And that's kind of my ideal 3D zoom effect. It does take a little bit of getting used to, though.
All right.
But the other things that they've kind of added for this new version is a couple extra bumper buttons in the back. And one of the bigger improvements that they have is the little nub on the front. It's next to the A, B, X, Y buttons out there. Yeah. So that's kind of like the, those little nub buttons on Lenovo laptops?
Yeah.
It's just like that. So it's another analog stick, but it's just the little nub on there. And that comes in handy for a lot of the newer games that they're coming out with, and you can use it in Super Smash Brothers for certain things and stuff. So there you go, right off the cliff.
I'm sorry for ruining your game.
No, I started it up so you could play around with it.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Oh, I did it off the cliff again.
So those are a couple of the new improvements. It only comes in red and black, and then there's a special edition version of it that nobody seems to be able to get their hands on, so don't even try.
Oh, off the cliff again. But in a 3D, it's very realistic. So that's the game that you're just taking out there? Is that it?
Yeah, so they're on cartridges. It comes with a 4 GB micro SD card that is underneath the bottom panel. You can replace that with up to 32 gigabytes. And where that comes in handy is if you're going to use the Nintendo online store to buy games, you can download directly to your SD card, so you don't have to use cartridges if you don't want to. Which I haven't tested that out yet. I'm waiting for a 32 gig card to come in, but the 4 gigabytes is plenty if you're not planning on downloading games to it. What else is it? Oh, and so they've updated the processor and everything, so games load a lot faster. It's a lot snappier than the old version. Another thing that they added was NFC support. So the touchpad on the bottom there, that bottom screen, also has an NFC reader behind the screen. So earlier in the year, they introduced some NFC reader tags on things called amiibos. They're like little characters that can save game data and characters in that game you're playing, Smash Brothers. So you just tap the amiibo to that screen and it transfers the data. So that's something new for this DS also.
So if you had an existing DS that was in good shape, do you feel like you would want to upgrade?
If you had a DS, which I didn't, I would probably say hang on to it and wait until next year. The new updates are nice, and the face tracking is the big one. The nub is nice, But if you already have a 3DS XL, I would just stick with it and maybe wait until next year. But if you've been waiting for a new one,
This is pretty fun.
like I have, I would really recommend this one because the 3D always felt a little, off-putting. It wasn't really as refined as it is kind of now, and it's like now I can tolerate it, or I like it. Whereas before it was I would only tolerate it and use it like half the time. So it's really, the hardware specs aren't going to impress anybody as far as, when you compare them to cell phones, because it's a 4.8-inch screen on the top, but it's 800 by 240. And then the bottom one's even less than that. It's 320 by 240. And it has a gigabyte of internal flash memory, but it does come in at $200. And for dedicated games and having the hardware buttons, it's really nice for that. So this is definitely appealing for people who want the buttons. And, if you're a cell phone gamer, then maybe this isn't for you. But if you're looking to get engrossed into games that come up to like, 60, 70 hours for some of them, this is a good way to do it.
It's, compared to maybe a PS Vita or PSP, the screen is terrible.
Yeah.
It's just, but that's not who the market is. And it certainly is good gaming fun, I have to say. Pretty impressive. So, pros and cons, real quick.
So, for the pros, it's the 3D, definitely. Yep. The new little controller nub that they added, the C-Stick, definitely a must-have if you're using any, 3D games. Like, I was playing Zelda, and it's nice to use the C-Stick to rotate the camera around.
Yeah.
And it's a lot faster than the older version of the DS, so games load up really quick, and it's super snappy. As for the cons, the biggest one is it doesn't come with a power adapter. So Nintendo,
you have to buy one?
You have to buy it separately.
Wait a minute, is it proprietary? It's not a USB?
It's a proprietary connector.
And they don't give you one?
Nope. No. So they assume that you are either have one from a prior edition of the 3DS.
How much is the additional power?
$15.
That's
$15.
ridiculous.
Yeah, so that was kind of pissed me off too.
Wait a minute. That's just basically a way to hide $15 worth of cost.
It's like the new way of saying batteries not included. But
you can't use it at all
without the adapter.
The power adapter.
I think, Nintendo has a way of shooting themselves in the foot every time.
Kind of stunning. I've never heard of an electronics.
I think they kind of assume this is an increment update to the 3DS.
So you already have one.
Right, and there's a lot of different versions that use the same connector, so you can use that. I don't have another 3DS, so I had to buy another one. And they're actually kind of hard to find too. So
even better. We have a shortage of them.
And then the
Why
other,
can't they just use micro USB like everyone else?
because it's Nintendo.
Right, they want to make a little extra money.
The other con would be it only comes in that XL size. There is a smaller version.
It's big, isn't it? Yeah. We were comparing it to a 7-inch tablet. It's actually almost as big.
Which, I prefer it because if I'm going to use the 3D, I like to have the bigger screen.
Yeah.
But there is a smaller version that they are not releasing in the US at this time that also has changeable faceplates and kind of a cooler color scheme. They just decided they weren't going to release it here, so this is the only size choice that you get. And some people don't like the larger size depending on, your pocket size and stuff like that. So those are the two cons, but as I bought it, I definitely give it a buy. And if you've been waiting to get a 3DS, this is the one to get.
Still no capacitive screen on the touch screen, huh?
Not on the
really
top.
touch it hard.
Oh, so
It's
on
like, what is this? 2004?
they give you a little stylus that you can use for the bottom screen.
Okay.
Yeah, but whatever.
Yeah. Right. Well, hardware wise,
They're keeping the price down.
It's $200.
Yeah. So buy, don't buy. I guess you said buy, right? You did.
Yep.
He put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
Buy, and then just make your own power adapter.
Such a pain.
Seriously. Somebody's got to sell
at least that it still works with the old DS and adapters, right? So you don't have
Correct.
All right. Hey, thank you, Bryan Burnett, our technical director of Buy on the new Nintendo 3D 3DS. With what do they call the new 3D? They call
it new
Super
Nintendo
Stable.
3DS. It's
super stable. Super stable.